Welcome to East Coast Believers Church, Lake Nona. Thank you for joining us today. We would like to personally invite you to come visit us on a Sunday morning. We're at 12253 Lake Nona Gateway Road, inside Village Park Elementary. For more information on time and locations, please visit our website at www.eastcoastbelievers.org. Are you feeling alone? Are you feeling isolated? Then Pastor Rich's new sermon series, Connected, is just for you. Please stay with us all the way through the end of the message for some important announcements. Now, here's Pastor Rich.
We are starting a brand new series. This is week one. Everybody say week one of a brand new series. You don't have to repeat that part. Of a brand new series that I am calling Connected. And what I want to do in this series is I want to talk about the relationships that we have in our life that benefit us and some of the relationships that we have in our life that don't benefit us. And then we're going to talk about marriage. We're going to talk about friendships. We're going to talk about family. And maybe we'll talk about that lady you don't like in your office. I don't know. I don't know yet. No, we won't. We won't talk about Belinda. No, I'm just kidding. Belinda is the greeter at our front door, and she is the absolute best. And if anybody talked about Belinda, they would have me to answer to. And her husband, Fraser, who's bigger than all of us. That said, I'm going to jump right into this. Thank you guys for being here, sincerely. If you're a first-time guest, please come back next week. I promise it'll be better than this one. That said, I want to jump right into this. I want to ask you a question. Today's message, I'm calling it Builders or Breakers, the relationships that shape your life. Builders or breakers, the relationships that shape your life. Let me ask you this. Have you ever had this moment in your life? I've had it many times, where you are absolutely surrounded by people. You are in a crowd of people even. Yet, somehow, you still feel completely alone. Surrounded by people, yet somehow you still have this sense that you're alone. You talk, you interact even, and you go through some motions. But deep down inside, there's something missing. Has anybody ever experienced that here? There's just something that's not there. Thank you, sir. There's something that's not there. And it's not just about having people around you in life, is it? Because we all can do that. You can go to Disney World and have a lot of people around you and not be connected to one of them. It's not just about having people around you. It's about, ready for this? It's about having real, meaningful connections. Real, meaningful connections. And that's what we're going to talk about in this series. Now, when those real and meaningful connections are missing, we feel it, right? We know it. And we can be in a room full of people at work, at church, even in our homes, even in our house, and still feel unseen, unheard, and unknown. And it's an awful feeling. So let me ask you this question. Why do so many of us feel disconnected? Why do so many of us feel disconnected? First thing, we have a lot of surface level relationships in our life. It's just what the culture brings. We have surface level relationships. I have a neighbor. I have a lot of neighbors, but I have one neighbor in particular. I've lived next to this man for 3 years. I couldn't tell you a thing about him. I know what he looks like. I know what he sounds like. I don't know a thing about him. Why? Because it's a surface level relationship. We're polite. We say hi. I say hi to his wife and daughter. We interact, but we are not connected. We are disconnected. It's a surface level relationship. We can have many acquaintances, but no deep connections. We live in this hyper-connected world with social media and texting, but often we're disconnected. We're disconnected, right? The other day at work, I was in the offices in our Oviedo campus, and I was literally carrying on 7 separate conversations through texting. And I put my phone down and walked out of the office because I wasn't built to connect with 7 people in a meaningful way at once. And it got to be too much. And eventually I had to go through and just one, one. I was carrying on 7 different conversations. We weren't built to do that. We were built and designed to have meaningful connection. And when we don't have that, we feel disconnected in our real life. How many of you know you can have hundreds, maybe even thousands of online friends, and not one of them to call or walk with you through life if you're experiencing a crisis? We can have, the second one, we can have draining, unhealthy, or toxic relationships. That means we're surrounded, but still empty. Anybody in here ever have a draining relationship? You just get around certain people or certain environments, and instead of being built up and lifted up and feeling invigorated and encouraged, you feel like that they are some type of an emotional vampire, and they have sucked the strength right out of your being. Or you can have just plain unhealthy relationships, and you know they're unhealthy, even if you can't point to why, you just know there's something ain't right here. Or you can have just a flat-out toxic relationship that doesn't just drain you, it infects you. Just because you're not alone doesn't mean you're connected to the right people and the right relationships. Proverbs 13:20 says this: "He who walks with wise men will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed." You can be a companion of wise people, or you can be a companion of foolish people. But if you continue on with the foolish people, after you have spotted out they are foolish, the Bible warns you, you can do it, but you will be destroyed in one way, shape, or form in your life. The third thing, we can experience these things, and then eventually, for protection, we self-isolate or intentionally withdraw. We self-isolate or withdraw because it becomes too much. You've been hurt so many times, or you've entered into relationships with fools, you've been the companion of fools, you've been in those unhealthy, toxic, draining relationships, and after a while you're like, people? No. Oh, there's people there? I can't go. Right? You ever get to that point in your life where you're like, no more people? I've got 3 people and that's it. Right? You ever get there in your life where you're like, I've got 3 friends and I don't need any more? For me, I got 4 women in my life. I really don't need any more. When I was a young man, before I became a Christian, I still prayed, and I'd say, God, I want to be surrounded by women. And then I got born again, and God said, I got you, son. I got you. And I can't get away from them. Because now all their friends are women. And they're all at my house. Or they're in my car. Or they're going to the store with us. Or they're going on a trip with us. And this is all I hear. All day long. And then I come to church. Oh, Pastor Rich. Surrounded. But it's my lot in life. It's a blessing. Sometimes. That's what they told me I should say. But here's my point. After a while, you're just like, look, I got my people. I don't need any more people because people are messy. People are problems. People are everybody's toxic. Everyone's toxic but us. You ever notice that? Oh, you're toxic. Right? Everyone else, this is a relationship on hell. Oh, everyone's everything but you. Right? Everyone's a narcissist but you. Right? Everyone's self-consumed and self-promoting but you. Am I right? Everybody's the thing, but you're not the thing. But guess what? For someone else, you're the thing. Right? Because you know why? We're so connected to people, we don't know how to do people no more. We don't know how to people. We're people. And we don't know how to people. We don't know how to connect. We don't know what it's like anymore. Listen, go ask a 7-year-old to have a conversation. It's like talking to a window. You can see that the words have places to go, but they fall down. It's like a bird running into your plate glass window. You're like, son, do you understand? You have to look at my eyes when we talk. What about this? You ever get this handshake? You ever give me a handshake like that? We're done. That's our last conversation. Even the women. You bet. No. I got a message to preach, and I'm going to preach it today. We can experience pain from past relationships. Am I setting this up well for you guys? You get where I'm going? Okay. We can experience pain from past relationships, and it makes us want to retreat. And guess what? I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying that's the right place to go. But you know what I am doing? I'm letting you know, guess what? It's normal. It's normal to feel like that because we can become so consumed and so overwhelmed by people. We just need, I gotta get away from people. But there's a problem with it. And if you've been hurt, if you've been betrayed, if you've been the companion of fools and experienced the destruction that comes with that, it's pretty easy to understand why you would want to retreat, right? But the problem is, we were not designed or created to do life alone and isolated. It's not what we've been built for. And if it's not what we've been built for, there's a guarantee that if we continue in isolation or entering in those kinds of relationships that harm us and break us, we will never feel connected. We will never feel fulfilled in this life because God did not create you to do life alone. Genesis 2:18 says this. And this verse is going to sound familiar to you, but I'm going to ask you to listen to it with fresh ears and fresh eyes for a moment. Would you do that with me? Genesis 2:18 says this. And God said, it is not good that man should be alone. And I will make him a helper comparable to him. God's pattern and tone in this verse take a change from what built up to this verse. If you guys are familiar with the days of creation, you'll know that it says, and God created such and such, and it was, and then he created this, and it was, and he created the man, and it was, he created the woman, and the man had problems. No, I meant helper. He had a helper. See, it's funnier when Pastor Allison's here because she gives me a look, but she's helping by leading with the kids. But this is what I want you to see. When God saw the man was alone, you read it in English. We read this in English and it says, oh, not good. It's just not good. No, in the original Hebrew, the whole pattern and the whole verbiage, the whole tone of everything shifted from this pattern of it is good, it is good, it is good, it is good, to this is not good. This is not what good is. This man being alone is not what good is. It's not good. It's ungood. It's the opposite of what good is, that this man is alone. And everything that good was making the environment conducive for life. So here, the thing that God breathed life into, the man, he breathed his spirit into the man, and the man became a living being. The man was alive, but disconnected and alone. And so he said, I have to bring to him another person who is comparable to him. Because God created us for connection. First with him, first and foremost. I promise you this, you can be in 1,000 different relationships with 1,000 different people, but if you are not connected properly to God, nothing in your life will ever be aligned. I'm not saying things won't go well for you in some way, shape, or form, but you will be out of alignment somewhere in your life because God created us for him and him alone. And if we're not connected to God well, we will never connect to people well. But then after we are connected to God, we've been created to be connected to others. And in today's world with all the technology at our fingertips, really logically, you would think we'd be more connected than ever. It's the opposite. Despite being constantly surrounded by people, both online and in person, so many of us struggle to find or form deep and meaningful relationships, the kind that we truly need to shape and build our life. Loneliness is actually a global epidemic now. Did you know that? Did you know that there's many who have reported this is not just an American problem. This is a global issue, so much so that it's been called an epidemic. Not because we lack interactions, but because we lack meaningful and real connection. The problem isn't just the absence of people, it's the absence of relationships that bring wholeness. Wholeness. Without other people, we can't become whole ever again. We don't just need more friends or followers. We don't need more acquaintances. We also need, and we desperately need, the kinds of relationships that move us from isolation to belonging, from loneliness to a life that is filled with purpose and connection. How many of you know a life without purpose is not a life worth living? And purpose is hard. And guess what else is hard? Real and meaningful connections. Psalm 68:6 says this: God sets the solitary in families. He brings those who are bound into prosperity, but the rebellious dwell in a dry land. What does this mean? Well, if you've been to this church at any length of time, you know this is what we do. We teach, right? We teach the Word, we teach the Bible. So we're going to go into this text a little bit, and we're going to examine this actually a little bit. So if you would, if you have a paper Bible, that would be amazing if you turn to it. If not, it'll be on your screen. What I want us to look at is the first category in this verse. He says, the solitary. The solitary. The solitary are those that are lacking community. The solitary are those that are they're lacking a community of people. It could be they lack family, it could be they lack friends, but they are lacking a community. They're isolated. And then he moves over into this person, this category. He brings out those who are bound. The bound are people who are lacking freedom in their life. They're bound because something has a hold of them that should not have a hold of them. Has anybody ever felt bound by something in their life? I don't know if you can get through this life without experiencing some level of feeling bound, either by an addiction, by a thought, by an adverse thought, by fear, by anxiety. People get bound by things. You can get bound by bad relationships. But the rebellious dwell in a dry land. The rebellious, that's a different category than the first two. The rebellious, they're not just lacking community, they're not just lacking freedom, they're lacking obedience, which leads to separation from God. And remember what we said, if you're not connected to God, the first two things are going to be a real problem for you in some way, shape, or form. In this psalm, we see that this is a progression. This isn't just three separate categories. This can also be seen as a progression in our life. You see, when we feel first we are without a community, we're not connected to the meaningful relationships we need in our life. When we're not connected to the meaningful relationships that we need in our life, we feel isolated, even if we're surrounded by people. And what happens to people is when we feel isolated, we begin to feel disconnected, and what happens is we end up seeking out relief from that state of being. Now, some people will seek out entertainment. Some people will seek out illicit relationships or unhealthy relationships. Some people will seek to change their state through some kind of ingesting something. I don't know what it is, but what people are seeking to do is, I'm isolated, I'm in pain, I'm alone, I need something to shift my state. Why? Because you weren't designed to be alone. You were designed to be connected. Do you understand that? If the connection we had caused us pain, we will look to seek to what? Fix the pain. We'll fix the pain. Do you know that people who are addicted to drugs, a lot of times, it's not because they're losers. It's not because, oh, you just can't handle your drugs. You can't handle your... No, it's because they're trying to shift a state in their life. They're trying to kill pain. Do you understand that? It's not because they just decided, hey, I want to be a heroin addict today. Hey, you know what I think a good idea might be? I saw this lady strung out on the corner. Well, that looks like fun. I'm going that route. Kill pain. Kill state. How do we get to that state? Bad relationships or isolated relationships. And we progress from being isolated or disconnected to bound. And when we get bound, eventually what will happen is we become disobedient. We become separated from God. Anything between you and God will cause separation and disconnection. Anybody here testify to that in their life? 7 of you? Good. The rest of you, though, I want you to know, people don't become disconnected to God immediately. It happens slowly over time. You don't become bound immediately. It happens slowly over time. You don't become isolated immediately. It happens slowly over time because people are being isolated, becoming bound, becoming rebellious. They're seeking, struggling, and straying. That's what they're doing. And it reflects a deeper reality of the human condition that we're isolated, and loneliness can drive us to seek out wrong things and wrong relationships. Wrong things and wrong relationships. And the truth of the matter is, if we continue down this path, we risk remaining bound, drifting from God, and living an empty life. Psalm 68, though, what we were just studying, it's not just a warning, it's also an encouragement. So don't just see it as a warning or a progression into being separated from God. How we should read it is also as an encouragement in this. Those who seek and follow God are placed in communities. Those who seek and follow God do experience freedom because God sets the solitary into families. How? When we seek after God. When we join ourselves to good communities, when we join ourselves to right relationships, when we join ourselves to builders and not breakers. True wholeness can only be found when we allow him to place us in life-giving relationships where we are known. That's important. It's scary to be known, isn't it? Isn't it a little scary to be known, to be seen? And I don't mean the fake you. I'm not talking about work you. I'm not talking about public you, the real you. That's a little scary when that gets exposed a little bit, right? That's why marriage is scary. You got to have a normal life with somebody who's walked in on you going to the bathroom. Am I right? That's weird. It's scary to be seen. That's why we change our voice tone. That's why we act different in public, because we're like, if I let you see the real me, you won't like me. We all think people won't like the real us, so we pretend to be another us. The problem is they end up liking the other us, and the real you gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And you know what you end up doing? You can't put up the fake you any longer, so do you know what you do? You retreat and isolate because you don't have the strength to be the fake you anymore. That's why God wants us to be connected in good relationships so that we can be seen and known and still loved. So I was talking to this guy, older gentleman in his later 60s. He just needed some life advice. Why was he coming to me? I couldn't tell you. But he wanted to talk to me. Someone had recommended that him and I have a conversation. He just needed some help and direction in his life. He was struggling in an area. He was very isolated and alone and stuck in his life. And me and this gentleman had about a 30-minute conversation. That's all we had. And as he was talking, I could hear, oh, you are alone, sir. You're isolated. You've self-isolated, and you have no connections. He is in the last quarter of his life. And all the real connections he has aren't in the state he lives in. So after he got done, the first thing I said is, sir, tomorrow I need you to find a Bible-believing, Bible-teaching church. Go join yourself to that community of believers. Get on a serving team and find a small group immediately. I said, they don't need you. You need them. You need to be connected. He's a believer. It's not like he was a heathen, and I'm like, go in there, sinner, like get in there, atheist. This is a believer. This is a man of God who did have a vibrant Christian walk at one point in his life, and life hit him in the face too many times, and he isolated. And during that isolated, he became depressed, he became bound, and he became very, very disconnected. And the only advice I gave him, join yourself to a living community of believers. Now, I am a cynical man. All right, I get cynical sometimes. I never expect anybody to take my advice because most people ask for it but don't walk in it, which is a waste of my time. But that said, and we're going to talk about that momentarily, that said, what I need you to hear is that man immediately found a Bible-believing church, began to attend, and is in the process of doing everything I said. And the report I received back from one of his relatives that hooked us up said, man, he is doing a lot better than he was. What did I tell him to do? Genesis 2:18, it is not good for a man to be alone. I just told him to connect with people. So here's my question for you today. Who is in your circle? Who are you connected to in your life? And are you truly connected with the people you are meant to build a life with? Or are there just a bunch of people around you? That is the question I have for you today. Because loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about being disconnected from meaningful relationships. God's answer for being alone isn't to find more bad connections. It's to find right relationships and right connections. The thing with relationships is, though, that time and energy is the currency of our relationships. You know, like when we go to the store, we spend our currency. We spend dollars, right? We exchange currency for goods or services. And in relationships, there should be investments or exchanges. And what I'm saying is, if you're going to have good and right relationships, if you're going to have the kind of relationships that build and not the kind of relationships that break, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you, ready? 2 things. First one, time. Second one, energy. Time and energy. And the reality is, energy has limitations. We have limited energy, right? Limited energy. You don't have an endless supply of energy. The other problem is time is not a renewable resource. Once you spend it, it's gone. When people say, Pastor Rich, can I have just 1 minute of your time? In my head, I go, what's this going to cost me? Because I can never get that minute back. And when someone brings to me some half of foolishness, I get stank. And sometimes I just quick. Well, Pastor Rich, I don't know about, get a job. Well, I don't have any money. Get a job. But what kind of a job? I need $10,000. Get a job. I don't like my job. Find a new job. Right? I was talking to one young lady. She texted me. She said, hey, I was going to ask you a question. This is how well she knows me. This is how much time and energy I have spent in this relationship. She said, I was going to ask you a question, but then I just imagined what you would say to me, and I did that. And I said, good job. That's discipleship right there. I just pretended that we had the conversation, and I projected into the conversation what I know you'd said, and I just went and did that. Job's done. That's why. So when people are like, Pastor Rich, be quick, and because sometimes it's just do. It's just do the thing that you already know to do, but it's just me telling you to do the thing, right? Obviously, that relationship cost a lot of time and cost a lot of energy. Well worth it, because now when we're going to get into this in a second, that investment is producing fruit. That's an investment. That is me investing my limited resources, time and energy, into another person. You know, when you invest, I don't know any successful investor that goes, I would love to lose money on this deal. I'm going to invest 1,000 and I hope to just lose it all. You know? Like, what can I buy? Oh, crypto, perfect. Oh, an NFT, great investment, right? Nobody wants to invest and lose. And when somebody invests time and energy into you, what they're expecting is a return on the investment of what? Time and energy. This is what I'm getting at. Relationships and connections are never neutral. They're never neutral. Did you know that? If it's neutral, it's not a building relationship. It's a loose association. And what I'm getting at is every person that we allow to get close to us is either a builder or a breaker. Strengthening our faith, sharpening our character, pushing us toward God's best, or draining our energy, distracting our focus, and pulling us away from God's purpose in our life. Those are the two kinds of close relationships you are going to have. The question isn't just who do you spend time with, but are the people you're spending time with truly building you up, or are they breaking you down? Are you connected to builders who encourage you and challenge you, or are you connected to breakers who compromise your growth in this life? The first person I want to talk about in this, there's three specific relationships, three kinds of relationships. And the first kind of relationship I want to talk to you about is a builder, a guide, or a mentor. The Apostle Paul was a builder. He was a guide. He was a mentor. He was a discipler. He poured into people. He invested into people. My question for you is, who do you have in your life that can invest in you? And let me tell you something. It can't always just be me. You know why? Because there's hundreds, and there's only me. It can be me at certain times, but I want to tell you something. Here's the secret to building a great community of believers. There should be dozens and dozens and dozens of people just within this local body of believers who can at some point in time, in some way, shape, or form, invest into you while expecting a return. The return might not benefit them, but it might benefit as it produces fruit. If I invest time into you, or if Brendan invests time to you, if Barbara invests time into you, if Gianna invests time into you, it's not that she's looking to get something from you, it's that you produce something in your life from their investment. When you get to heaven, and I show up and I hear the Lord, I want to hear the Lord say, well done, good and faithful servant. Why? Because there's fruit from my life. If the fruit from my life didn't necessarily benefit me, that's okay. If it benefited you, which benefited other people, guess what? That investment paid off. And what I'm trying to get you to see is that Paul invested in hundreds of people. Those hundreds of people eventually affected our life. We're here because somebody was discipled. We're here because somebody shared the gospel with somebody. We're here because somebody shared the gospel with us. But the truth of the matter is, we all need people in our lives who can invest in us, provide wisdom to us, and offer us sometimes even accountability. No one grows in isolation. No one grows in isolation. You can't be isolated and have a living relationship with God. I love people who they want to be a believer, but they don't want a pastor. right? They don't want any kind of spiritual thought. Well, I just like to go to church, and I'm the last one there, and I'm the first to go. And then when there's a crisis in their life, they don't have the real connections that they need in order to walk through that crisis. Sometimes you need somebody to be able to guide you, direct you, help you. They can't tell you what to do. You need to be in church every Sunday. If your pastor's telling you that, he's a weirdo. All right, look, you got your own life. You make your own decisions, your relationships with God. My point is, if you go to somebody and they begin to invest in you, you might need to be accountable for what they've invested in you, that time and that energy. If someone sits down with you, and let's say it's not even spiritual direction. What if it's just natural direction? What if I needed financial help, and I needed someone to help me build a budget? And then who do I go to? Well, I'm like, you know what? This guy's like done really well in business. I'm going to go seek this person out because they know how to build a budget. They know how to run a business. I'm going to get some natural advice from them. I need someone to invest in me. Do you know that person isn't giving you their time just because? They're giving you their time because they want to see you come out from financial distress and produce fruit in your life financially. You get what I'm saying? You can do that in some area of life. You should be able to do that in some area of life. You should have some sort of spiritual or natural wisdom that you can invest into somebody, and all of us should have people in our life who can invest into us. You can't do that in isolation. Paul invested into Timothy. Timothy invested into the church of Ephesus. At one point in time, the church of Ephesus was the biggest church. It had some people say upwards of 20,000 people. And Timothy was just a young man that someone had poured into, who poured into others. We can't just have just one person to encourage us through trials. We need multiple people. We need peers and friends. We need equals. We need people that don't invest into us, but people that we spend and exchange time and energy with. You know, that's what a friend is. A friend, what do you say? Oh, I'm spending time with my friend. Do we say, oh, I'm investing? No, I spend time with my friend. I give my friend my time and my energy. I spend it. And once I spend it, it's gone. And guess what? They spend their time and energy with me. And we exchange it. And guess what? Sometimes in that relationship, sometimes they're down and we pick them up. Sometimes we're down and they pick us up. You need people around you because you're not always going to be up. Some days you're going to be down, and you need a friend to come along and say, I got you. I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to help you because you're my friend, because I love you, because I care about you. And I don't need anything back because you've already spent a ton of time and energy with me. And we are connected. Do you know, in order to be a good friend, you can't just be the receiver. You can't just be the person that keeps taking. That's not a good friend. That's a bad friend. A good friend also pours into you. You don't need frenemies. You ever had someone give you a backwards comment? You know what I'm saying? Like a backwards compliment, where it's like a compliment, but it's really like an insult. Man, you better be lucky I'm saved. You know what I'm saying? You don't need that in your life. See, the funny part about men, though, is in order to be nice to each other, we have to say mean things to one another. But that's how we show each other that we love each other, right? Like we rib on each other. Men, am I wrong? Man, if men start ribbing on me, I feel loved. Ryan, you feel loved when I pick on you? You darn right. Yeah, you do. Don't wreck my message, Ryan. I love Ryan. Pick on him all the time. Look at him looking like a Greek statue. Look at him. Man, if I had Ryan's hair, we'd have 300 people in this room. That's all right. I'm just showing. Ryan's my friend, right? But guess what? I'm also his pastor. So I get to invest in Ryan spiritually, but then there's opportunities where we switch hats and I get to walk with Ryan as a friend and spend time with him, where we're encouraging each other, where we're making each other laugh. You know what we're laughing about too, don't you, Ryan? But there might be a time where I say, hey, Ryan, I've invested into you. I've spent time with you. Now I need you to do something for me. I want to introduce you to this young man right here, new in his faith. I need you, Ryan, to invest into him. We need three things. We need three relationships. We need someone to invest into us. We need a builder. We need a mentor. We need a discipler. Someone who invests their time and energy into us. We need peers and friends, people that are equals, that they walk with us. And then we also need, eventually, someone we pour into. Someone that we pour into. We need a Paul, a Barnabas, and a Timothy. Eventually, you got to have someone you pour into. Because guess what? Stagnant bodies of water, they don't have nothing fresh going out. Right? Maybe they got some water going in, but ain't nothing going out. You need water coming in, you need the currents flowing around next to you and with you, and you need fresh water going out. You know what my prayer for our church is constantly? That we are a fresh body of water. That we are not a stagnant pond which just grows moldy and stink and green. We are a fresh, flowing, living ecosystem, a community of believers that are connected because we got people who invest. We got friends who walk together. That's why we do small groups. It's the life's blood of our church. We can't get connected here on a Sunday, not in a deep and meaningful way. You go through a small group with somebody, change your life. I mean, we got couples in here? Really? Got couples, hands high hands, whatever one you are today. You know, we got a couples small group. You know what it is? Guess what it is? Here's the big commitment. Ready? Go to dinner. Have fun. Laugh with some Christians. Meet some people you don't know yet. And I got couples all the time. We don't really have a lot of couple friends because you go to church and you leave. How are you going to meet anybody? Leaving skid marks in the parking lot. Oh, hey, I want to introduce you to what? Smells like burning rubber. That couple there. We got a men's dinner group. We got a ladies' dinner group. We got a men's Bible study. We got a women's book club. We got a look, you want to know about healing? We got a small group on healing, studying healing. We got a freedom group if you're bound by things or just need to get set free from something. We got a save your marriage before it starts group. That's why we do these. We don't just need an extra thing to do. I do small groups because I want to invest with people, I want to walk with people, and I want people to pour into me. You need that in your life. Ecclesiastes 4, 9, and 10 says this: 2 are better than 1. If one falls, the other will lift him up. Here's my point. We need builders, guides, and investors. We need peers and friends. And we need an investee. We need someone that we can pour into and offer our wisdom and our natural knowledge to. That's why here this is why we have our serving teams. This is how you're going to meet people in a local church. You want to meet people? You want to make some friends? Get on one of our teams. You will connect faster than you've ever connected in your life. It's not just because we need people. It's because you need people. You need people in your life. If you want to grow, this is what we got East Coast Bible College for. We're going to invest in you. We're going to pour into you so you can have a bunch of information, so that you can be someone worth pouring into, so that you can become someone that can pour into somebody else. It's how you build a meaningful life.
We hope you enjoyed our service today. If you made a decision for Jesus, we want to connect with you. Please text EC SAVED to 94,000. and we'll get you some information on your exciting next steps with Jesus. We'd also like you to get involved here at East Coast Believers Lake Nona. Please visit us on a Sunday morning at 12253 Lake Nona Gateway Road inside Village Park Elementary. Please check the website www.eastcoastbelievers.org for more information on times. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome home.